everybody! TW here. Back at the bench. I'm loading up some 8mm Mausers. Gotta have coffee. Okay. We are going to load 185 grain Corlokts with 748 powder. I looked through the Nosler manual and the Hornady manual and the Lyman manual. I thought the 185s were in the Lyman manual, but they're not. 200s and 180s are in the Nosler, and 200s and 220s, 195s and 170s are in the Hornady manual. So the Hornady had quite a range. Well, 195 is not too far off. So I decided to go with the Lyman manual and extrapolate, because they had data from a couple of different makers in a couple of different weights. And they also had some 220s to bounce off to give me an idea of what was going on. Now, something about the 8mm Mauser that you should know is a lot of the data, some of the data, is restricting the pressures down around 50,000. In a 8mm Mauser, 98 Mauser rifle, you can load that up hotter. You can go warmer than that. I want you to work up slow. Don't start at the top and go past it. Start low and work up, watching for all the signs that you've learned for pressures. If you're not comfortable with that, just follow the book and load it to what it is there and be good with it. Some of the manuals will give you higher pressures. Spear is always known for giving a little higher pressured stuff. I did not check the Spear manual, but they have 170s. So it wasn't close to my 185. So what I did was I decided that 4064 would be a really good powder. 4064 is a powder that I used for years and years. It was my go-to powder for the 175 Sierra, and it worked really good, shot really good, no problems. I'm out of it. I can't believe I let myself run out, but I'm out. I don't have any. So I started checking here, looking for another efficient powder. Remember, I've got a shorter barrel. I got a 20-inch barrel, and all the data is 24 or 26. They're actually using a 26-inch universal receiver for part of their data here, and the other part of their data came from a 98 Mauser with a 23-inch barrel. So what we did was, first of all, I made up a dummy, and with that dummy I decided on the overall length that I was comfortable with. So that come out to into the lands was 3180 with this bullet. So I dropped it back to 3150 just because it was a nice round number. So that's 10, 20, about 30 thousandths of a jump into the rifling, which is a comfortable jump. I didn't need to go that far, but I just made a nice round number, easy to remember. And if you look at what the seating depths are for most of these, it's really not that far off. The 195 with this data is loaded to 2994, so a lot shorter. A lot shorter. It means a lot more case is holding that bullet. A lot more bullet is pushed into the case. You go up to the 200 and the 220, and they're seating it to 3140 and 3130. So they're seating it out quite a bit. We're at 3150. So we're another 10 thousandths past the longest seated, which is the 220 grain. So I feel comfortable with a good bit of cushion that gives us. Not to mention the fact that this is a 185 grain. So it's 10 grains less, and it's seated a lot farther out, giving a lot more room in the case. So knowing that and looking at the data that was here, on top of all that, knowing that they're loading this to 50,000 PSI max, I know that this cartridge, and I've loaded this cartridge up a lot more than that, probably pushing 60. So that's a good bunch of fudge factor room for powder capacity, for load data, for pressures, for everything. So I decided to go up in smaller increments. I went up in 3/10, or normally I go up in 5/10. So because of that, I was with the brass that I had sized, I was able to load up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loads, 5 grains, 5 bullets each, 3/10 of a grain between each. So I started about 1.5 grains below maximum, and I stopped about 1.5 grains above listed maximum, because I looked over here, and between the 195 and the 220 for the powder 748 that I chose, there's only 1.5 grains difference. 1.5 grains maximum. So 1.5 grains above, taking into consideration it's longer, it's lighter, and I'm able to load to higher pressures, I should have plenty of room. I should be able to go a lot more than this. But because it's the first loading with this bullet, we're gonna stay on the lower side. Just be safe. So here's my dummy. This goes back in the die box. Here's my cartridges all loaded up. And we are ready to take this to the range. Boy, oh boy. I pushed them in there, and they don't want to come out. Wow. Holy cow. That's in there big time. I had to tug on that. And there's our loaded round. Lots of room in the case. Lots of case volume room. I decided to paint these. This is how I do it. I've shown you this before. This is how I decided to do this one. My bottom load, I always get none. It's naked. There's nothing on it. This is a starting load. And then you just decide to do it however you want to do it. You can do it with colors. You can do it with marks. You can do it with both. So I rung around the outside of the primer to designate those 5. I painted the whole primer to designate those 5. I did a slash across the whole base to designate those 5. Across to designate those 5. I painted half the brass, half the case base for those. I painted the entire case base for those, minus the primers. And for the maximum load, I painted the whole thing. Usually what I'll do is I'll switch and go to red for the last one. But I had the blue marker in my hand. I just continued. It's enough. It's different. Different is different. And there we go. So there's all my loads. I've got 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ready for the range. Hopefully we'll have a good load out of there. This is my data sheets. I've shown you these before. Just paper that I've made up that I can write everything on. I can make all my notes. So I listed the caliber, the date, my load number, primer size, powder weight, bullet weight, case, overall length, my notes, all the powder charges with the designations. And then I listed over here from the Lyman manual, the maximum charge with what bullet, at what length, to what pressure. So I know we're 10 grains lighter. I know we're loaded 3150 to 3, so 1.5, 150 thousandths more. And I know we're loaded, I know we can take more than 49,000 PSI. So it gives me plenty of fudge factor, plenty of room for safety, so I'm comfortable with that load. And we're good. This is where I keep all my loads. This is how I do everything with my data. My sheets, I'll just put on there the load number on these, and I'll stick that inside the box. That will give me enough information that I can reference back. I can find the load, and I can come back when I'm done and reflect all the data points that I want to record. So if you look at some of this other stuff, and let's just look here in general. So no marks on these. I haven't loaded them. I haven't reflected. I haven't shot them. Just kind of flipping through. First load. Okay, here's just one at random. All good, none great. So I know that this data is something I probably won't do again. It wasn't that great. Nothing to write home about. Load data ladders, all the information. I guess I haven't shot that one yet. This one, load is all safe, but they all sucked. No good. So I'll know that just isn't anything I want to do again. Here, all good. 23.5 was the best out of that range. 125 SST, yada yada. All are good. Excellent accuracy out of the 110 Vortex. TTSX, very compressed, but hot, as I am okay with. So I didn't want to load that any hotter. Mauser 125, not accurate. Wanted to do 135, good accuracy. So I can go back to these and load them again. I got the load number. I know everything that I did, and I can reflect back. Just flopping through here, try and find points to talk to you, to show you about. You know, different, this is just something you can always go back to. So here, data velocity with the top load was 2625, 1-inch groups, no pressure, but all these were too light. So your accuracy was good at 2650. This is the first load with this bullet. Just stuff I can go back and reference. 14 grains of this, whatever this load. This is the zinc loads that we watched. 14 grains was awesome. 16 grains was very good. Use 16 grains. Our fire forming load, good, slightly compressed. Fire forming load, those were all, these all shot really good. I should reflect that on there. I remember these, I just shot these a short time ago. There we go. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Really a quick down and dirty video. Just wanted to show that those bullets I got loaded, those were the gift bullets that I got from Bob. Thank you again, sir. That's awesome. You will see these out on the range soon, and we will get them shot and see what kind of little bitty groups we can make. God bless everybody. CW out.